The weight of 1,000 suns, an ordinance of secrecy. The heat was a physical thing, a stifling woolen blanket draped over the already sweaty shoulders of the young physicist. He stood at a chalkboard in a windowless room, the air thick with chalk dust and the smell of stale coffee, trying to wrestle an impossible number into submission. This was not a theoretical exercise for an abstract paper. This was an ordinance. A command so profound it was whispered only behind locked doors in triple-secured steel. The command, build a weapon capable of ending all war or all life. Did you know that the entire project, codenamed Manhattan, was initially born not out of a desire for world domination, but from a terrifying yet almost casual letter? The year was 1939. Europe was teetering. In the quiet summer heat of Peconic Bay, Long Island, the great Albert Einstein, a man whose equations had already rewritten the universe, signed his name to a letter drafted by his fellow Hungarian immigrants, Leo Szilard and Eugene Wigner. It was addressed to President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The core of the letter was a stark warning, a prophecy of doom disguised as a technical memo. Recent work by Fermi and Joliot suggested it might be possible to set up a nuclear chain reaction in a large mass of uranium. This reaction would generate vast amounts of power and, crucially, new radium-like elements. The key sentence, however, was the cold, terrifying conclusion. This new phenomenon would also lead to the construction of bombs, and it is conceivable, though much less certain, that extremely powerful bombs of a new type may thus be constructed. It was a nightmare seed planted in the soil of Washington, D.C. Roosevelt, a pragmatist facing a looming world war, grasped the implications instantly. If Hitler's Germany, with its renowned scientific institutions, got this bomb first, the fate of the world was sealed. The sheer audacity of the premise, harnessing the power that fuels the stars, was breathtaking, but the motivation was pure, desperate fear. This wasn't just a military program, it was a desperate race against annihilation. The young physicist, whose name was Richard Feynman, wasn't in New York or D.C. He was a long way off, soon to be immersed in the most secretive city in American history, Los Alamos, New Mexico. The entire operation, which would eventually employ over 130,000 people and cost nearly $2 billion, the equivalent of over $30 billion today, was an absolute marvel of logistical and informational suppression. Consider the reality. For years, thousands of people worked on one thing, the atomic bomb, without ever knowing they were working on an atomic bomb. The factory workers in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, who were separating the two critical isotopes, uranium-235 and uranium-238, were told they were purifying materials for a special Navy project. The town of Oak Ridge sprung up overnight, a secret city that didn't appear on any public map, with a population that swelled to over 75,000, all focused on the colossal K-25 diffusion plant, a building so large it was, for a time, the single largest building in the world under one roof. They were literally filtering atoms, atom by atom, using a process so technologically complex and energy-intensive that the operation consumed 1/10 of the total electrical power generated in the United States during the height of its activity. This staggering informational challenge was this: how do you coordinate the creation of the most sophisticated weapon ever conceived, requiring advancements in physics, chemistry, metallurgy, engineering, and logistics, while maintaining absolute compartmentalization? The answer was General Leslie Groves. Groves was a massive, brusque Army engineer, a man who had just finished supervising the construction of the Pentagon. He was a logistical bulldozer, and he ran the Manhattan Project like a tyrannical clockmaker. Groves decided that the scientists were flaky, untrustworthy dreamers, and the military personnel were necessary but too numerous to know the full truth. His solution was simple and brutal: need to know. A machinist in Site Y, Los Alamos, might build a crucial part of the bomb's casing, but he wouldn't know what it was for. A chemist in Hanford, Washington, might perfect the process for extracting plutonium-239 from irradiated uranium slugs, but he wouldn't know that plutonium was the deadly core of the weapon. This compartmentalization was often ridiculous and frequently frustrating. Feynman, the young genius, was notorious for figuring out the whole system. His security clearance was, ironically, the reason he was placed in charge of the team that used IBM punch card machines to calculate the complex mathematical equations, the only way to perform the billions of calculations required before modern computers existed. He didn't just calculate, he figured out how to crack the safes that held the most sensitive documents simply by observing the scientist's habits. His motive wasn't espionage. It was a young man's mischievous boredom combined with a mind that could see patterns in everything. When he pointed out the flaws to the security chief, they merely assigned him the task of tightening the security. This was the surreal atmosphere of the most critical scientific undertaking in history.